The Dominion's mistake. The holographic projection flickered to life in the grand chamber of the Alterian Dominion Council. High Marshal Vexus stood tall, his scaled body gleaming under the artificial lights as his 6 eyes surveyed the assembled dignitaries. His voice, deep and commanding, echoed through the silence. "The time has come," he announced, mandibles clicking with barely contained excitement. "Earth has defied us for the last time. Their refusal to acknowledge our authority, their persistent independence in the face of our demands, it ends now." The gathered representatives of the Dominion's 57 conquered worlds murmured their approval. On the massive display behind Vexus, images of Earth appeared, blue and seemingly vulnerable against the blackness of space. "Our intelligence indicates a primitive military force, scattered defenses, and no unified planetary government," continued Vexus, his tail swishing with confidence. "They possess no faster-than-light capability, no gravitational weaponry, and their space presence is negligible. The conquest will be swift and absolute." Admiral Zorn, his most trusted military advisor, stepped forward. "The invasion fleet stands ready, High Marshal. 5,000 warships, 2 million ground troops. Earth will fall within days." Vexus's mouth stretched into what his species considered a smile. "Then let it begin. Broadcast our declaration across all channels. Let Earth tremble before the might of the Dominion." As the council chambers erupted in thunderous applause, nobody noticed the small, unassuming figure slipping out through a side entrance. A human diplomat who had been invited as a formality, a final mockery before the invasion began. Captain Eleanor Frost stood on the bridge of the UES Shadowfall, an unmarked vessel hidden in the darkness of the Kuiper Belt. At 45, her face bore the weathered look of someone who had seen too much war, yet her eyes remained sharp, calculating. She brushed a strand of silver-streaked auburn hair from her face as she studied the incoming transmission. "They've done it," she said, her voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. "The Dominion has officially declared war." Admiral Donovan, a towering figure with dark skin and a closely cropped beard flecked with gray, nodded solemnly. "Just as we expected, their arrogance never disappoints." The bridge crew, 12 of Earth's finest officers, maintained their stations with practiced efficiency. None showed fear, though they all understood what was coming. Lieutenant Commander Wei, the communications specialist, looked up from his console. "Admiral, we've received confirmation from all 17 hidden outposts. Operation Phantom Shield is ready for activation." "And the civilian evacuation?" asked Frost. 98% complete," replied Wei. "The remaining population consists primarily of military personnel and essential infrastructure workers." Donovan moved to the central holographic display, where a three-dimensional map of the solar system showed the approaching Dominion fleet, a massive swarm of red markers cutting through space toward Earth. "They have no idea what they're walking into," he said quietly. Frost joined him at the display. "They see what they want to see, a fractured world, outdated technology, petty squabbles. They never bothered to look deeper." "That's always been our greatest advantage," Donovan replied. "Humanity's greatest achievement wasn't our technology, it was our ability to hide it." For over a century, Earth had maintained a careful facade of technological mediocrity. While openly displaying rudimentary space capabilities, they had secretly developed technologies that would terrify the galaxy if revealed. Hidden fleets, dimensional weapons, gravity manipulation, advancements born from humanity's unceasing drive to survive in a hostile universe. "It's time," said Donovan, his voice heavy with the weight of command. "Send the transmission." Frost nodded and turned to Wei. "Broadcast on all frequencies, all languages. Make sure every ship in the Dominion fleet receives it." Wei's fingers danced across his console. "Ready, Captain." Frost took a deep breath and spoke clearly into the communications array. "To the Alterian Dominion, to the rulers of the galaxy who believe themselves masters of all they survey, you believe Earth is weak, you believe we will kneel, you believe we will beg for mercy." She paused, letting silence stretch across the void. "You are mistaken." With a nod from Frost, Wei transmitted a carefully selected series of images, glimpses of Earth's true military capability, shadows of vessels larger than anything the Dominion had ever constructed, weapons that could unmake reality itself. "You wanted war," Frost continued, her voice now cold and precise. "Now face the consequences." The transmission ended abruptly. No demands, no threats, no negotiations, just a warning and then silence. On the bridge of the Dominion flagship Sovereign Wrath, First Commander Zalthier stared at the black screen where the human transmission had played moments before. his exoskeleton prickled with an unfamiliar sensation, doubt. "What was that?" demanded Fleet Commander Trezik, his massive form looming over the bridge crew, some pathetic attempt at intimidation. Zalthir's sensory antennae twitched. The images they showed, "I've never seen technology like that before." "Fabrications," Trezik dismissed with a wave of his armored claw, "desperate illusions from a species about to be conquered." "Sir," interrupted a tactical officer, "we're detecting unusual energy readings from the inner solar system. Nothing matches our database." Trezik scoffed, "Deploy the advanced scouts. Let's see these so-called defenses." 12 sleek Dominion vessels broke formation, accelerating toward the inner planets. On the view screen, Zalthir watched them disappear into the darkness, unease growing in his thorax. "Commander," the communications officer called out, "we're losing telemetry from the scouts." "Interference?" asked Trezik. "No sir, they're gone, no distress signal, no debris field, just gone." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Trezik's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "Launch a second wave, full combat configuration." Zalthir stepped closer to his commander. "Sir, perhaps we should reassess." "Are you suggesting we retreat before we've even engaged the enemy?" Trezik hissed. "The Dominion does not retreat, we conquer." As the second wave of ships moved forward, Zalthir couldn't shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. The human's warning echoed in his mind, "You are mistaken." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a command center unknown to all but a handful of Earth's highest officials, Director Natasha Reeves watched the Dominion fleets approach on a wall of screens. At 63, she had spent her entire career preparing for this day. "They've taken the bait," she observed. "Second scout wave is entering the asteroid belt." General Ortega, her military counterpart, nodded. "Phantom Shield is fully operational. Phase 1 is complete." Around them, hundreds of technicians monitored Earth's true defensive network, a system so advanced that most of humanity itself remained unaware of its existence. "It's remarkable," said Reeves. "They've conquered 57 worlds, and yet they never considered that we might be hiding our capabilities." "Arrogance," replied Ortega. "They believe their technological superiority is absolute. They never imagined a species might choose to appear weak." On the main screen, the second wave of Dominion ships vanished, one by one, as they triggered the outer perimeter of Earth's defenses. "Begin Phase 2, ordered Reeves. "Activate the Phantom Fleet." In the void between Mars and Jupiter, where nothing should exist, space itself seemed to ripple and distort. Massive shadows emerged from nowhere, warships of impossible design, their hulls blacker than the void itself, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The Phantom Fleet, humanity's greatest secret, awakened from its long dormancy. 200 vessels, each armed with weapons that defied conventional physics, each crewed by soldiers who had trained in absolute secrecy. On the bridge of the flagship Nemesis, Commander Jackson received the activation codes from Earth Command. "All ships report ready, Commander," said his executive officer. Jackson nodded, his weathered face grim with purpose. "Deploy the quantum disruptors, target their command vessels. Remember, we don't just want to defeat them, we want to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth." As the Phantom Fleet moved into attack position, the Dominion remained unaware of the storm about to break upon them. They had come expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they were about to face extinction. High Marshal Vexus received the disturbing reports with growing unease. 2 scout waves gone without explanation, long-range sensors unable to penetrate the inner solar system, and still that human transmission played in his mind, "You are mistaken." "What are they doing?" he demanded of his advisors. "How are they hiding from our sensors?" Admiral Zorn had no answers. "It's impossible, High Marshal. Their technology should be centuries behind ours." "Should be," repeated Vexus, his voice dangerous. "Yet our ships are vanishing without a trace." He turned to the massive view screen showing Earth, still appearing small and vulnerable, a blue marble in the blackness. "What are you hiding?" he whispered. As if in answer, the sensors blared warnings. Something massive was approaching the Dominion fleet, something that hadn't been there moments before. "Impossible," breathed Zorn as the readings clarified. "Those ships, their energy signatures are off the scale." Vexus stared at the approaching vessels, realization dawning on his alien features. The humans hadn't been weak, they had been waiting, and the Dominion had just made the greatest mistake in its conquest-driven history. All ships, he commanded, his voice suddenly urgent, prepare for. But it was already too late. Ghosts in the void. First Commander Zalthir stood frozen on the bridge of the Sovereign Wrath, his compound eyes fixed on the tactical display. Where moments ago the second wave of scout ships had been proceeding through the asteroid belt, now there was nothing, not even debris. 48 warships simply gone. Interference, barked Fleet Commander Trazik, his massive armored form packing the command deck. It must be some kind of sensor disruption. No, Commander, replied the sensor officer, her voice trembling slightly. We've run 3 diagnostic sweeps. The readings are accurate. The ships are gone. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. The Dominion had conquered dozens of species across the galaxy, and never had they encountered anything like this. Enemies fought, fled, or surrendered. They didn't make battleships vanish without a trace. The human transmission, Zalthir said quietly. They warned us. Trazik's head swiveled toward him, mandibles clicking in irritation. Are you suggesting we should be frightened by primitive apes and their parlor tricks? We are the Dominion, we do not retreat. I'm suggesting caution, Zalthir replied, maintaining his composure despite his commander's anger. This is not standard planetary defense behavior. Something is wrong. Before Trazik could respond, the communications officer called out, Commander, we're receiving a transmission from High Marshal Vexus. The central viewscreen flickered to life, revealing the imposing figure of the Dominion's supreme military leader. Vexus's usually confident posture seemed slightly diminished, his 6 eyes darting between unseen displays off-camera. Fleet Commander, Vexus began, his voice carrying the distinctive resonant quality of the Alterian ruling caste, report your status. Trazik straightened to his full height. High Marshal, we have encountered some unexpected resistance. 2 scout waves have been lost to unknown causes. We are preparing a full battle Group 2. You will hold position, interrupted Vexus, surprising everyone on the bridge. Our intelligence on Earth appears to have been incomplete. Zalthir noticed something he had never seen in his Supreme Commander before, uncertainty. What are we facing, High Marshal? He asked directly. Vexus's compound eyes shifted to him. We don't know, First Commander, and that is precisely what concerns me. Deep within the Phantom Fleet's flagship Nemesis, Commander Jackson moved through dimly lit corridors toward the tactical center. The ship hummed with a strange energy, not the conventional vibration of engines, but something deeper, as if the vessel itself existed partially in another dimension. The tactical center was a cathedral to warfare, a vast chamber where 3-dimensional holograms displayed every aspect of the unfolding conflict. Officers moved silently between stations, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of screens and holographic displays. Status report, Jackson ordered as he entered. Major Diana Chen, his tactical officer, looked up from her station. At 38, Chen had been with the Phantom program since its inception, one of the few officers cleared to know the full extent of humanity's secret capabilities. 2 waves of Dominion scouts neutralized, she reported crisply. 0 casualties on our side. The dimensional phase disruptors worked perfectly. The enemy vessels were transitioned fully into the slip space. No debris, no signals, no survivors. Jackson nodded, his expression grave despite the tactical success, and the main fleet. Holding position at the edge of the asteroid belt, they appear to be reassessing. They're confused, added Commander Riker, the ship's executive officer. A tall man with prematurely white hair and cybernetic enhancements visible around his left eye, a reminder of humanity's struggles against previous alien threats. They expected a conventional defense, maybe some orbital platforms or a small fleet. Not this. Jackson moved to the central holographic display, studying the red mass of the Dominion fleet, nearly 5,000 vessels holding formation just beyond Mars. They still outnumber us 20-1, he observed. Chen's lips curled into a slight smile. Numbers won't help them against what we're about to unleash. Phase 2, asked Riker. Jackson nodded. Inform Captain Frost on the Shadowfall. Tell her to activate the quantum mirror network. It's time to show the Dominion exactly what they've stumbled into. In orbit around Neptune, far from the main conflict, Captain Eleanor Frost received Jackson's orders with grim satisfaction. For decades, she had commanded the Shadowfall, a vessel that officially didn't exist, conducting operations that would never appear in any record. Today would be her masterwork, the culmination of a lifetime spent preparing for this moment. Lieutenant Commander Wei, she called to her communications officer, transmit activation codes to all quantum mirror installations. Authorization Frost Alpha 70. Wei nodded, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Transmitting now, Captain. Frost turned to Admiral Donovan, who stood silently observing the proceedings. Do you think they understand yet? She asked quietly. Donovan's weathered face creased in thought. They're beginning to, but understanding and believing are different things. The Dominion has been the unchallenged power in this sector for so long, they can't conceive of a threat they haven't accounted for. Their arrogance will be their undoing, Frost replied. On the main screen, status indicators flashed green as quantum mirror installations activated across the solar system, on asteroids, on moons, hidden in the clouds of gas giants. Each one a marvel of human ingenuity designed to bend reality itself. All installations report ready, Captain, announced Y. Frost took a deep breath. Initiate quantum mirroring, target Dominion fleet. On the bridge of the Sovereign Wrath, alarm klaxons suddenly blared to life. The tactical display erupted with warnings as sensor operators called out in confusion. Multiple contacts, shouted the senior sensor officer, appearing out of nowhere, everywhere. Zalthir rushed to the display, his exoskeleton prickling with dread. Where moments before there had been empty space, now thousands of signals appeared, warships materializing around the Dominion fleet in a perfect sphere of encirclement. Impossible, whispered Trazik, all confidence gone from his voice. There were no ships there, our sensors would have detected them. Sensor records confirm, Commander, reported an officer. Space was empty and then, it wasn't. The tactical display showed the situation clearly. The Dominion fleet, once the Predator, was now surrounded. The human vessels seemed to shimmer on the sensors, their signatures fluctuating as if they weren't fully present in normal space. They're deploying something, called out the weapons officer. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Zalthir felt a cold dread creeping through his body. Open a channel to all ships, he ordered. Emergency formation Delta, prepare to. His words died as the viewscreen showed the impossible. Outside, the stars themselves seemed to bend around the human vessels. Space twisted, folded, distorted in ways that violated every physical law the Dominion understood. By the eternal void, breathed Trazik, what are they doing? Before anyone could answer, the first Dominion ships began to disappear, not destroyed in conventional explosions but simply ceasing to exist, as if reality itself rejected their presence. In the command center beneath the Pacific, Director Natasha Reeves watched the quantum mirror network perform exactly as designed. On the massive screens, Dominion vessels vanished one after another, transitioned into a pocket dimension from which there was no return. The quantum mirrors are operating at 97% efficiency, reported a technician, dimensional transfer rate exceeding expectations. General Ortega nodded in satisfaction, and the Dominion fleet. In complete disarray, replied the tactical officer. They're attempting to regroup, but our phase shifting is making targeting impossible for them. Their weapons pass right through our ships when we shift dimensions. Reeves studied the battle with analytical detachment. The plan decades in the making was unfolding perfectly. The Dominion, having never encountered Earth's true technology, had no defense against weapons that manipulated the fabric of reality itself. Incoming transmission from High Marshal Vexus, announced the communications officer. He's requesting to speak with Earth's leadership. Reeves and Ortega exchanged glances. This was unexpected. The Dominion rarely negotiated once battle was joined. Put him through, Reeves decided. Main screen. The central display shifted to show Vexus, the supreme commander of the Dominion forces. His normally imposing presence seemed diminished, his exoskeleton dull with stress. I speak to whoever commands Earth's defenses, he began, his voice strained but formal. What is happening? What have you done with our ships? Reeves stepped forward, her silver hair and stern expression projecting calm authority. High Marshal Vexus, I am Director Natasha Reeves of Earth Defense Command. Your ships have been relocated to a parallel dimensional pocket. They are intact for now, though their return is unlikely. Vexus's compound eyes widened. Impossible, such technology doesn't exist. Evidently, Reeves replied coldly, it does. You came to our system uninvited with the intent to conquer. We warned you, you chose not to listen. We were told Earth was primitive, Vexus said, anger mixing with confusion. That you had barely achieved spaceflight, that your technology was centuries behind ours. A carefully constructed illusion, Reeves explained, one you were eager to believe. Vexus seemed to struggle with this revelation. Why? Why hide your capabilities? To avoid precisely this situation, Reeves answered, we have observed the Dominion's pattern of conquest. Any civilization identified as a potential threat is immediately targeted for subjugation or elimination, so we chose to appear harmless while developing defenses that would ensure our survival. As she spoke, the tactical displays showed more Dominion ships vanishing, transferred to the pocket dimension by the quantum mirror network. Vexus's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Stop this, return our vessels. I'm afraid that's not possible, Reeves replied. The dimensional transfer is one way. Your ships and crews will remain in the pocket dimension indefinitely. They have supplies to survive, but they cannot return. Horror dawned in Vexus's alien eyes as he understood the full implications. You've trapped them for eternity. Consider it merciful, Reeves said. The alternative was destruction. The transmission cut abruptly as Vexus ended the call. He'll rally what remains of his fleet, observed Ortega. The Dominion doesn't surrender. Reeves nodded. I'm counting on it. Prepare Phase 3. Commander Jackson stood on the observation deck of the Nemesis, watching space itself bend around his fleet. The quantum mirrors were performing beyond expectations, creating localized distortions that allowed Earth ships to appear and disappear at will, striking from angles that should be physically impossible. Commander, called Riker's voice over the intercom, incoming transmission from the Shadowfall. Captain Frost requests your presence in tactical. In the tactical center, Frost's holographic image hovered above the central display. Her expression was somber despite their overwhelming success so far. Commander Jackson, she greeted him, the Dominion is adapting faster than expected. They're reconfiguring their shields to detect dimensional fluctuations. Jackson frowned. How is that possible? Unknown, Frost replied, but it suggests they may have encountered something similar before, even if their records don't acknowledge it. Chen brought up a new tactical display showing a group of Dominion warships in a defensive formation. Unlike the others, these vessels hadn't attempted to engage. Instead, they were scanning, analyzing, learning. They're trying to understand our technology, Chen observed, if they succeed. They won't, Jackson stated firmly. Activate the phantom drives. All ships prepare for dimensional shift. Chen looked up, surprised. Sir, we haven't tested the drives in actual combat conditions. We don't have a choice, Jackson replied. If the Dominion adapts to the quantum mirrors, we lose our advantage. The phantom drives are our contingency. He turned to Frost's hologram. Captain, coordinate with Earth Command. We need to transition to Phase 3 immediately. Frost nodded, her expression grave. Understood, Commander. May the void watch over you. As her hologram faded, Jackson turned to his crew. This is what we've trained for. The Dominion came expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they'll witness humanity's full capabilities. Prepare the fleet for phantom drive activation. Throughout the Nemesis, crew members moved with practiced efficiency, preparing the ship for a maneuver that had only existed in theory until now, a transition that would take them beyond conventional spacetime into a realm where the laws of physics themselves became malleable. In the void between Mars and Jupiter, Earth's phantom fleet began to shimmer, their outlines becoming indistinct as the phantom drives engaged. To the watching Dominion, it appeared as if humanity's ships were dissolving into the very fabric of space itself, becoming ghosts in the void, untouchable yet deadly. The true battle for Earth's survival was about to begin. First Commander Zalthir watched in cold horror as more Dominion ships vanished before his eyes. Not destroyed, there were no explosions, no debris fields, but simply removed from existence. 3,000 ships gone in less than an hour, with no way to fight back against an enemy that seemed to defy reality itself. We need to retreat, he urged Trazik, abandoning protocol in the face of annihilation. We cannot win this battle. Trazik, his confidence shattered, could only stare at the tactical display in disbelief. What are they? He whispered. What have we awakened? As if in answer, the human fleet began to change before their eyes, their solid forms becoming transparent, ghost-like, as if they were transitioning to another state of being entirely. They're shifting again, reported the sensor officer, her voice quavering. Energy readings off the scale. They're everywhere and nowhere at once. On the main view screen, the stars themselves seemed to ripple as humanity's true power unveiled itself, not just advanced technology, but a fundamental understanding of reality that the Dominion had never achieved. The sovereign wrath shuddered as something unseen brushed against its hull, a phantom touch from a vessel that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Zalthir felt a cold certainty settle in his core. The Dominion had made a catastrophic mistake. They had believed themselves to be hunters, only to discover they were prey. And the predator was just beginning to show its teeth.